Rink Wide Vancouver. Pre-game, post-game, every game presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat here with you with another edition of the pre-game show as the Canucks get set to face off against the Oilers. But before we get to that, JPat, want to remind you, the listener, to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so now. And also, we want to know this from you today. Do the off-ice distractions make it a valid excuse for the Canucks on their on-ice performance? Leave that in the comments below. And also, too, how many points is Connor McDavid going to get tonight? JPat, what do you think about that before we dive into all the details of the game? What do you got? What's a prediction for you for Connor McDavid?
Well, Andrew, first and foremost, let me wish you a happy hockey day in Canada.
Oh, that's
right.
That? Yes.
And of course, the Canucks will be the late game on hockey night in Canada as we turn the page from Colorado last night to the Edmonton Oilers. And of course, yes, that means McDavid, it means Draisaitl, and all of the challenges that come along with that. And we heard post-game last night that, yes, all this noise around the head coach and his tenuous situation, it has seeped into the locker room. Tyler Myers, pretty candid, said that, yeah, he's never seen anything like it. It's affecting him. It's affecting the team. And they looked like it against the Avalanche last night, just disinterested. Wasn't much of a spark. 4-1 Colorado beats the Vancouver Canucks. And Edmonton will do the same if the Canucks don't find a way to up their performance level. Even if the Canucks do, it may not be enough against McDavid and Draisaitl and trying to hold those two guys down. So the challenge is a great one. The Canucks beat the Oilers in Edmonton, the final game before Christmas. And even then, they were down 2-0 in that hockey game and came all the way back with 5 unanswered goals. But McDavid's going, the Oilers are going. And it wouldn't surprise me if Connor McDavid lit up the Canucks and the score sheet in this one. Let's go with 3. That's a pretty pedestrian number for him, but I'm going to say a 3-point night for Connor McDavid.
All right, let's get to the lineup change, which is presented by Delaney's OK Tire out on Fraser Highway in Langley. One thing we do know, at least we think we know, JPat, Bruce Boudreau will be behind the bench for the Canucks.
Yeah, he met with the media this morning. I think that is an indication that the plan is he'll be behind the bench yet again, and we heard from the crowd last night. I would imagine we will again in this one with a national television audience looking on. Beyond that, no morning skate for the Vancouver Canucks. I would assume that it'll be Spencer Martin in goal. Colin Delia got the call last night against Colorado. Back-to-backs are never easy. No travel. I suppose you could come back with Delia, but my hunch is they'll go to Spencer Martin. And look, it's been a tough go here in the new year for him. He has lost his last 6 decisions. And again, we talk about the challenges that the best team in hockey poses. You remember last year when Spencer Martin got called up in January, faced the Oilers, faced 50 shots. McDavid ended up scoring in overtime that night. So Spencer Martin knows firsthand the challenges of facing one of the highest scoring teams in the National Hockey League. Beyond the goaltending, who knows? I would assume that it's probably the same 12 skaters up front. Although Lane Peterson's an option, and on defense, the Canucks have a couple of extra bodies there. Might they make a change? Could we see Riley Stillman or Kyle Burroughs get in? Sure. But for the most part, I think Bruce Boudreau probably comes with the same lineup he used against the Colorado Avalanche, and he's hoping for a better effort level, and I'm sure he's hoping for a better result as well.
Tyler Myers, of course, talked about that noise affecting the play on the ice last night, but they're going to have to block that out tonight against the Oilers.
And they had done a pretty good job of that out on the road. Now, they were far from home. Of course, they come back home. They lose to Tampa the other night. The noise just gets a little bit louder. Yesterday against Colorado all day, the speculation around the future of Bruce Boudreau, it really is minute by minute. Forget day to day at this point. It does feel like we're on Bruce watch, and this could very well be his final game. So I know that the players like Bruce Boudreau, the person. They seem to like Bruce Boudreau, the coach, as well. You know, will that help them up their battle level, their compete, if you will, play hard for the coach tonight? I guess we'll find out when the puck drops just after 7 o'clock. But these guys are pros. They're paid well. And I know it can't be easy right now. But yeah, put the earplugs in, try to block out all that extraneous noise and do what you're paid to do, and that's play hockey.
Yeah, and they need guys to step up as well. Not enough guys leaving their mark right now.
And we talked about this on our postgame pod after the Colorado loss, because it was another example of, you know, this team's just without a spark plug right now. And they've got candidates that could be that guy, should be that guy. But really, other than Elias Pettersson, who did score last night, his 19th goal of the season, they're not getting an awful lot. Even Bo Horvat, who's had an incredible season, you know, 1 goal in his last 6, and you wonder if some of the noise is starting to seep into his mind as well. Not about Bruce. We're talking about his future with the Canucks and where that lies. Whatever the case, it would be nice to see somebody sort of take the reins here and be the guy that wants to be the the spark plug for this hockey club. And if it's not in your top six, your forwards, what about one of the role players? They've just gone way too quiet, too many interchangeable parts, and nobody from that bottom six forward group leaving his mark on any of these hockey games of late. So let's see what happens with the bright lights of Hockey Night in Canada and the Oilers, a divisional rival on the other side. Canucks have to know if they don't perform, they do run the risk of getting embarrassed by an Oilers team that's playing well right now. So I'm curious to see what this Canucks team has left in the tank tonight.
That Oilers power play must be licking its chops as well, looking at Vancouver's penalty kill. They're going to have to get that right at some point this season.
Yeah, well, if you take penalties, don't compound it and take more penalties. Colorado scored twice on 5-on-3s last night. The Oilers do have the best power play in the National Hockey League. I'm sure the Canucks are aware of that. So discipline first, and then if you do take penalties, don't compound the issues there and put yourself in greater peril. But on the Canucks penalty kill side, forget the Oilers, forget the opponent. The Canucks themselves, and look, anybody that's watched this team all season, they know the story here, but 2 for 4 on the penalty kill last night, so 50%. In 12 games since Christmas, the penalty kill is hovering a shade over 60% in a dozen-game stretch, and on the season has dropped below 2 of every 3 now. It's at 66.4% coming in to action in this one. So it's been a storyline all season. It was again last night, and you just wonder, are they ever going to get it right? Is anything going to change there, or is this just going to be the Canuck way for the remainder of the season?
Ilya Mikheyev was brought in to help that penalty kill, but he's gone quite quiet lately.
Yeah, and not just on the penalty kill, although he's been a part of a penalty kill that's not good enough. But, we're talking about offense for Ilya Mikheyev, and he had a decent start to the season, certainly up until Christmas. But boy, since Christmas, there has been next to nothing from Ilya Mikheyev. 11 games without a goal. He has 4 assists in that time. His last goal came the first game out of the Christmas break at home against the San Jose Sharks. Now, I did reference the December 23rd game in Edmonton. He scored a third period goal that night, and that was back when he was scoring a little more regularly. But for whatever reason, just not happening. He's dropped further in the lineup. He's now part of that bottom 6 mix that I talked about, where nobody's putting a stamp on a hockey game. So one of these nights, you want to see the speed burner, Ilya Mikheyev, use those tools, use those gifts that he's got, and, put them to good use to try to rise up and make some sort of difference in a hockey game. But way too quiet for far too long now when it comes to Ilya Mikheyev.
Let's shift gears now. Take a look at the Oilers, who are red hot. They've won 5 in a row.
They have. And, sometimes you look at a streak and you think, all right, like maybe it's a bunch at home or maybe it's against weaker opponents. Their 5-game streak started down in California with wins against Anaheim and San Jose, not 2 of the best teams. But you look at the last 3 wins for this Edmonton Oilers Hockey Club. The Vegas Golden Knights in Sin City come home. They beat Seattle, and we know that the Kraken have been red hot of late. And then the other night took care of Tampa. Now it was back-to-back. Tampa had won in Vancouver the night before. But still, Vegas, Seattle, Tampa Bay, that gets my attention when you're knocking off those kinds of teams. So they're starting to figure some things out defensively. And obviously they've got firepower for days. One of the top offenses in the National Hockey League with the 2 highest scorers in the National Hockey League, and you know the names, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and I'm sure both of those guys will be front and center in this one tonight.
Yeah, despite the recent success, though, they still only find themselves in a wild card position.
And I do wonder if Canuck fans have been so locked on to all of the problems around this Vancouver hockey team, maybe they've stopped looking at the standings, but it's getting bunched up in the Pacific Division. The Oilers are one of the wild card spots as they head into action in this hockey game, but they're only 3 points out of the division lead. The flip side there is they're only 4 points clear of being below the playoff bar. So it really is starting to stack up now. Seattle and Vegas. The Los Angeles Kings are interesting to me because they don't have a positive goal differential, and you wonder if that's ultimately going to catch up with them. And then you've got Edmonton, and Calgary was bumped right out of a playoff spot with Colorado's win over the Canucks last night. So it's getting tight there. The Oilers, I'm sure, they look up rather than looking down. They have to be careful of not ignoring what's happening behind them, but there is significance to a game like this one. They know everybody else is taking points off the Vancouver Canucks. They're going to want to do the same tonight.
And they were looking for more goal scoring, and they're going to get it, it looks like, with Evander Kane now back in the lineup.
Yeah, all this talk around the NHL about heading to the trade deadline, and this is sort of one of those internal acquisitions. Oh, yeah, Evander Kane was out with that serious injury, had his wrist cut by Patrick Maroon's skate back in November, but he's healed up, he's returned, he's played 2 games, and I think he's finding there's a challenge in jumping in midstream after being out that long. Hasn't contributed offensively, but he's been involved physically, and we know that he can be a pain to play against, and once he gets rolling, he can be an offensive force as well. So that's a nice boost to the Edmonton Oilers to get a guy like Evander Kane back in their lineup. And coming home, a Vancouver guy. We'll see if tonight is one of the nights that, maybe he finally puts it together here after the injury and has some sort of breakout night.
And the Oilers do all their damage on the power play, the top-ranked power play in the league against the bottom-ranked PK.
Yeah, so just in raw numbers, 30.6%. I mean, we're well past the midway mark, and they're running with a power play that's up over 30%. So that tells you an awful lot. And I guess it stands to reason from that they have the 3 highest power play producers in the NHL. McDavid and Draisaitl, 1 and 2. And then Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is also in that mix as well. So, it's not just one guy, or certainly not just the big 2. RNH is having an incredible season and is a big part of their power play. And obviously Tyson Barrie at the point. Evan Bouchard's got the big shot if they slide him in there. So they've got some weapons and they make you pay. So again, discipline for the Vancouver Canucks. Otherwise, the Oilers could very well go to town and run the Canucks out of their own rink on the power play.
A couple of days before Christmas, the Canucks gave the Oilers a lump of coal in their stocking. The Oilers are going to remember that loss on their home ice. Look for a little bit of revenge tonight.
Yeah, this is it for the season series. The one and only visit by the Edmonton Oilers to Vancouver. The Canucks were there twice opening night. McDavid had the hat trick, and McDavid scored in the game just before Christmas as well. And then the Oilers also took a 2-0 lead to the dressing room after one period of play, and you thought, Canucks had played the night before. Remember, snow was falling. There was questions about travel and getting to Edmonton, and would that game go ahead? And the Canucks looked a little sluggish. Were down 2-0, but then they rallied. JT Miller had a couple of goals. Bo Horvat scored twice. I mentioned Ilya Mikheyev as well. The Oilers will remember that. Trust me. As I said, everybody else right now picking up points against the Canucks, the Oilers don't want to slip on a banana peel on national television. So I would imagine they've been off here since the win over Tampa the other night. 5 straight victories. They're in a little bit of a groove right now. I think this is a business trip for them. They will be ready from the drop of the puck, and we'll see if the Canucks are able to match the intensity that the Edmonton Oilers seem to be playing with right now, because, again, they want to solidify their spot as one of the divisional playoff performers in the Pacific, not leave their chances to one of the wild card spots towards the end of the season.
Let's get to the stat that stands out. It's presented by Jason Hominick at jason.mortgage.
And this is all Connor McDavid. His numbers just jump off the page. What an incredible season. Just turned 26 years of age, 39 goals, 47 assists, 86 points for the NHL's leading scorer. And check this out. Canucks tonight, then it's Columbus, and that's followed by Chicago. Those are his next 3 opponents. Isn't conceivable. He needs 14 points to get to 100 before the All-Star break. Not exactly a murderer's row of resistance over the next couple of games for Connor McDavid. So I'm saying 3 points for him tonight. Who knows? If he goes off and goes more than that, I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not going to bet against this guy these days, the way that it's going. But again, 39 goals, 86 points, setting the pace in the National Hockey League. We're talking about a 150-point season. Come on. But that's the level that he's got his game at. So those are all stats that stand out to me, brought to you by our friend Jason Hominick at jason.mortgage.
All right, let's get to my Bodog Best Bet, and it's focused around the power play. And when you've got the top-ranked power play in the league, I mean, why not go to the well with this one? I see a power play goal being scored in the first period. Like the value you get there. I've gone to this one a couple of times this year, JPat. I've hit on it as well. You know the Canucks, they like to score on the power play too, but this Edmonton team, they are dynamic on the power play. I see them getting one in the first period. Take that at plus 125. Love the value there.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me, the speed that McDavid plays at. Canucks have taken way too many penalties. We know that. So, I would imagine we'll probably see some special teams action in the first period. And again, if the Oilers get a chance to go to work with the man advantage, look out, because they are the best in the business. So I like that one from you, and on a little bit of a mini run, if we'll call it that. So we'll see if you can push your streak by hitting on this one tonight.
We got some Bodog bucks to give away as well. Here is what you've got to do. Head to @RinkWideVan on Twitter. Look for the post. Guess the time in the period of the game-winning goal. The closest guest wins 50 Bodog bucks. Now, you must have a Bodog account. You can also leave your times and your period below here in the comments section. And good luck to everybody that is looking to get those Bodog bucks. All right. The best part of the pregame show is right now. Who is going to do something in this game?
Well, the storyline hasn't changed. We wondered if yesterday was going to be it for Bruce Boudreau, but certainly looks like he will be behind the bench for the Vancouver Canucks against this one. For the game on Tuesday against Chicago, all bets are off at this point, and so this could very well be Bruce's last stand. So I'm going off the board a little bit in this one. We heard from the fans a handful of times last night with the Bruce, there it is, and we saw the emotion from the coach, and afterwards he talked about it. So it's the fans, it's the paying customer. And we know that there will be Oiler fans in attendance. Orange and blue somehow seeps into Rogers Arena when the Oilers are here, but Canuck fans, let the coach hear it again. Again, he's been put in a tough spot here, so I'm looking at the fans to do something to show their love for Bruce Boudreau with a throaty Bruce. There it is on a couple of occasions as this night goes along, regardless of the score and the way things are happening. And I was going to say, regardless of what's happening on the scoreboard, but we saw last night the scoreboard wasn't even working. So hopefully they get that patched up and worked back in functioning order at Rogers Arena. But yeah, I would expect that on a Saturday night, there'll be a little jump in the building. So yeah, crowd, get after it, do your thing, do something to show the coach a little bit of love on his way out the door.
Yeah, very well could be Bruce's last stand against the Edmonton Oilers. The Canucks are going to want to win one for their head coach. This has been another edition of the Rink Vancouver podcast presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.